Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. Tombstone has just been added as a new perk to Cold War Zombies, and today I'm going to explain everything that it can do. Let's start off by looking at its features without any skill tree upgrades. When you buy Tombstone in your game and then you go down, you'll be respawned somewhere in the map as a spectral shadow in the dark ether. And then while the downed version of you is bleeding out, you'll have a chance to go back over to them and revive them. Now, if you're in a solo game and you run out of time and you don't get the revive before your other version bleeds out, then your game will end. That's it. If you're in co-op, then you'll have to rely on your teammate clutching up and you'll respawn the next round. Now, you can kind of treat Tombstone like an extra self-revive, because if you're in a solo game and you manage to revive yourself successfully, it will not use a self-revive token. This is super useful because self-revive tokens are quite expensive to keep recrafting, and so you're kind of getting rid of needing to recraft self-revives and replacing it with needing to re-buy the perk Tombstone, which I think is a pretty strong trade because you're much more likely to have loads of points than loads of salvage. This also means, in case you were curious, that Tombstone works perfectly fine if you're not currently carrying a self-revive token. Now, in case any of you are curious and you do manage to revive yourself with Tombstone, you're not going to keep absolutely all your perks and it's going to be as if you never went down in the first place. It doesn't work like that in this game. So, what's it like actually trying to revive yourself? Well, you've actually got to be really careful because the game's HUD is going to indicate that you've got, for example, some equipment that you could use, maybe some stun grenades, but you can't actually use them. Maybe this is going to get patched, but right now it's a bit of a misnomer. You also aren't going to regen any health, at least without skill tree upgrades, which we'll talk about in a second, and so you need to be doubly careful because you only got a couple of swipes and then if you die, that's it. You also don't get invulnerability after you've successfully revived yourself with this perk, so be very alert once you complete that revive as to what's going on around you. Now let's take a look at how you can modify the perk using the skills tree. Your tier 1 upgrade means that your shadow form can regen health. This is massive because even though you're still on a timer, because obviously the downed version of you is bleeding out and you've got to get there before you die, you are at least going to be able to reset yourself if you get into any kind of awkward situations while you're trying to make that res, and then you can go for it and successfully complete it. Speaking of being on a timer, tier 2 increases that downed duration to 60 seconds, giving you even more breathing room, and then tier 3 means that on death, you drop a Tombstone Stash that saves your weapons, equipment, and resources. The stash will be available for you to grab from where you died once you respawn back in. This is what it looks like in game, but bear in mind, this thing is not free. The stash does cost money. It's actually fairly expensive, and so while you will get all your stuff back, it does come at a price. However, the upside here is obvious. If you've spent an hour in your game trying to get the ray gun, you finally get it, and then you grind it up to tier 3 pack, and then you die. This way, you can guarantee to get it back for yourself when you spawn back in, instead of having to go through that whole process all over again. The stash also doesn't disappear straight away, which is really nice. Treyarch gave us a little quality of life feature here, I suppose. It doesn't just disappear and flicker away in the same way that an insta-kill or a max ammo might, for example. It lasts a bit longer than that. In co-op, if you don't even bother going into your shadow form and you just let yourself bleed out, your stash will still spawn where you died. So even when there's no hope and you just want to die, there's still a little bit of hope and you can come back and get reset next round. The stash also spawns, of course, if you're in co-op and you go into shadow form, but then you die while trying to revive yourself. Maybe you run out of time, for instance. However, a big reminder here, if you're in solo and you die in shadow form, that's it. Game over. In my opinion, this means that Tombstone is a significantly stronger perk in co-op games compared to in solo. If you're the sort of player that isn't particularly keen on trying to chance it reviving yourself in a weakened state compared to just self-resing and then trying to get back on your feet that way, then I actually recommend you don't buy the perk. The risks are simply too great. I would much rather put myself in a position where I self-res myself and then I have half the perks I started with and I can try and craft a solid route, maybe using some of my equipment through the map to get myself a new set of armor and grab those perks that I've now lost, because that's how I've always played zombies. Like, I've always got contingency plans for if I'm in solo and I die, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to have a kind of backup plan to sort myself out. Whereas if you go into shadow form, you can't use your remaining equipment, and you also can't choose where you're going to end up spawning back in. You could spawn in a really inopportune place, and you're on this really awkward timer, which could be affected by any single thing going wrong, and then suddenly you're out of time, and maybe that's the end of your game. You're already kind of stacking the odds against yourself, when personally, I don't think you need to. Now, there is obviously a caveat to this. If you don't have a self-res, then absolutely buying Tombstone is a fantastic idea, because it's basically a self-res that you can buy with points instead of with salvage. And if you consider the equation in co-op, then yeah, man, get Tombstone. It seems like a great perk in co-op. The fact that the stash persists when you come back no matter how you die, as long as you have your tier 3 upgrade enabled, of course, is a great feature. And I think that there is a much higher chance that you come out of the Tombstone gameplay loop happy that you bought it than there is that you would feel like hard done by, or like you had a bad value from the perk or something like that. I love the fact that it's in the game, and it is available also from the Wonder Fizz machine in both Firebase Z and in D machine now, so you can get it on that base map as well. And I really hope that Treyarch adds more perks in the future as we go through the DLC season. Now, speaking of tombstones, my YouTube channel is gonna die if you don't click the video that is in the middle of your screen right now. It's right there. The YouTube algorithms recommended it. It's just for you. I know you're gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be great. Just click it, please, to stop me becoming a tombstone. Thanks. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.